Ladies and gentlemen, there comes a time in everyone's life when you realize that certain habits are not just holding you back, but they're keeping you stuck in a cycle that limits your growth. We all have habits that we are ashamed of, things we do repeatedly even when we know they aren't good for us. Maybe it's procrastination, maybe it's negative thinking, or maybe it's something like avoiding responsibilities or unhealthy eating. Whatever it is, these habits shape our lives more than we care to admit. The first step to breaking free from them is to recognize that you have the power to change. Breaking a bad habit starts with the powerful act of acknowledging that the habit exists. It sounds simple, but it's often the hardest part of the journey. For many of us, we don't even recognize our bad habits because they have become so ingrained in our daily routines that we do them without thinking. This is where self-awareness plays an essential role. You cannot change something if you are unaware of it, or if you refuse to accept that it's negatively affecting your life. Habits, particularly the bad ones, are often so deeply rooted that they can become part of your identity. But the first step to breaking them is recognizing that you have the power to change them, and that the habit doesn't define who you are. When you acknowledge a bad habit, you take away its power. You're no longer a victim to it. You are an active participant in choosing whether or not to keep it in your life. This requires a level of honesty with yourself. It requires you to look in the mirror and be truthful about the things that are holding you back. Whether it's an addiction, unhealthy eating habits, negative thinking, procrastination, or anything else, recognizing the habit allows you to regain control of the situation. It's not about shame or guilt. It's about clarity. Without that clarity, the habit remains something you do automatically, without ever questioning it. A big part of acknowledging a bad habit is understanding its impact on your life. It's important to dig deeper and ask yourself, how is this habit affecting my health, relationships, productivity, or overall happiness? Sometimes we don't realize how much our bad habits are holding us back until we take the time to examine the consequences. Maybe your bad habit is robbing you of time, preventing you from reaching your goals, or causing you physical or emotional harm. When you reflect on the damage these habits cause, you will find the motivation to change. Recognizing the habit isn't just about admitting it's there, it's about understanding that it doesn't serve you. And when you realize that, change becomes a choice rather than something you feel you have to do. Another crucial part of acknowledging your bad habits is identifying the triggers that lead to them. Often habits form in response to external factors, stress, boredom, or emotional triggers. For instance, once you understand the why behind your habit, you can begin to break it down and address the root cause. This understanding empowers you to make conscious decisions to break the cycle. For example, if you find that you tend to overeat when you're stressed, you can learn to identify the stress and replace the eating with healthier coping mechanisms, like going for a walk or practicing deep breathing. By recognizing what sets off your bad habit, you gain the power to choose a different response. But why is acknowledging the habit so important? Because it's the first step in the process of change. Without acknowledging the habit, you are simply continuing in autopilot mode. When you make the choice to recognize the habit, you open up the possibility for growth. You no longer allow the habit to control you. You take the reins and choose your actions consciously. This is empowering. However, the process isn't always easy. Often we avoid acknowledging our bad habits because we don't want to confront the discomfort that comes with change. there is a fear of failure, a fear of disappointment, or even a fear of losing a part of ourselves that we've identified with for so long. But remember, bad habits do not define you. They are simply patterns that have developed over time, and patterns can be changed. With the right mindset, the right tools, and the right support, you can transform these habits and make them a thing of the past. It all begins with the decision to face them head-on. Acknowledging them is an act of self-love, because it is the first step toward becoming the best version of yourself. Understanding where your bad habits come from is a crucial step in breaking free from them. Habits, especially the bad ones, don't just appear out of nowhere. They develop over time due to specific reasons and influences. By examining the root causes of your habits, you can begin to see patterns that you might not have noticed before. These patterns often tie back to your environment, your upbringing, and your emotional state. Bad habits are not always a reflection of your character. Sometimes they are learned behaviors that become ingrained due to repeated exposure or unhealthy coping mechanisms. Your environment plays a significant role in the habits you develop. Whether you realize it or not, you are constantly influenced by the people around you and the places you frequent. For instance, if you are surrounded by people who indulge in unhealthy eating habits or constantly procrastinate, you are more likely to adopt those same behaviors. Our social circles often have a subconscious influence on our actions. This is why it's so important to pay attention to who you surround yourself with. Are the people in your life supporting your growth, or are they reinforcing the habits that keep you stuck? Changing your environment may be necessary to break free from old habits. This could mean distancing yourself from negative influences, or finding a group of people who uplift and encourage positive change. Upbringing also plays a key role in shaping the habits you develop. The way you were raised, the values instilled in you, and the behaviors modeled by your family members all contribute to the formation of your habits. If you grew up in an environment where certain behaviors were normalized, you may not even realize that they are harmful until much later in life. For example, if you were taught to deal with stress by turning to food, or if emotional vulnerability was met with criticism, you might have adopted unhealthy coping mechanisms. Understanding how your upbringing shaped your habits allows you to break the cycle and create healthier patterns. It's not about blaming your past. It's about recognizing how the past influences your present and choosing to take control of your future. Emotional triggers also play a significant role in habit formation. Many bad habits are coping mechanisms that you've developed over time to deal with emotions like stress, anxiety, or loneliness. For example, if you have a habit of overthinking or engaging in negative self-talk, it may be a response to past trauma or unresolved emotional pain. Similarly, habits like procrastination often arise from a fear of failure or perfectionism. When faced with a task, instead of tackling it head-on, you may avoid it because of an underlying fear or anxiety. These emotional triggers can be powerful, and understanding them is essential for breaking bad habits. The key is not to avoid or suppress your emotions, but to address them in a healthier way. By learning new emotional regulation techniques, such as mindfulness, journaling, or talking to a trusted friend, you can begin to replace your old coping mechanisms with healthier alternatives. Another factor in habit formation is the comfort of routine. Habits are often created out of the need for comfort and familiarity. When life feels unpredictable or overwhelming, the routines and behaviors you've formed become a source of security. This is why breaking bad habits can feel so uncomfortable. Change disrupts the security of your routines, and the unfamiliarity can trigger feelings of fear or resistance. However, in order to grow, you must be willing to step outside of your comfort zone. Recognizing that your habits are a response to discomfort helps you to understand that breaking them will require a certain level of discomfort as well. It's important to realize that while change may be uncomfortable in the beginning, it's temporary. Over time, as you replace bad habits with healthier ones, the discomfort will fade, and you will begin to feel more comfortable with the new routines you've established. Finally, bad habits are often a result of unmet needs or desire. For instance, if you have a bad habit of constantly scrolling through your phone or binge watching television, it could be a way to escape from feelings of boredom, dissatisfaction, or stress. By recognizing the unmet needs behind these habits, you can start to address the root causes instead of just the symptoms. What are you seeking when you engage in these habits? Is it relaxation, connection, validation? Once you identify the underlying need, you can begin to seek healthier ways to fulfill it. This is the key to breaking the cycle of bad habits and replacing them with habits that serve your well-being and growth. Understanding where your habits come from is not about blaming yourself or others. It's about taking ownership of your actions and recognizing that change is possible. When you understand the root causes, you can address them directly, which gives you a clearer path to breaking free from bad habits. Breaking bad habits requires not only external support but also an internal shift in how we view ourselves and how we handle mistakes along the way. One of the most important aspects of this journey is to be kind and compassionate with yourself. Too often we fall into the trap of harsh self-criticism when we slip up, thinking that a single setback means we have failed completely. However, being kind to yourself is not about letting yourself off the hook. It's about recognizing that change is difficult and that mistakes are part of the process. This mindset is essential for long-term success in breaking bad habits. When we set out to break a bad habit, it's easy to become frustrated when we fall back into old patterns. Maybe you were doing well for a few days or even weeks, and then one stressful day, you find yourself reverting to the habit you are trying to eliminate. In that moment, it's natural to feel disappointment or self-doubt. You may think, I'll never be able to change, or I've ruined all my progress. This is where the power of self-compassion comes into play. Instead of chastising yourself, remind yourself that breaking habits is not a straight line. It's a series of peaks and valleys, and setbacks are an inevitable part of the journey. These moments are opportunities to learn, not to judge yourself. Instead of saying, I failed, try reframing the situation by asking, what can I learn from this? Understanding that mistakes are a natural part of growth allows you to be gentle with yourself and move forward without dwelling on past errors. In addition to being compassionate about mistakes, self-compassion involves recognizing your efforts and progress, no matter how small they seem. Many people are quick to notice when they fail, but they fail to celebrate their victory. When you are breaking a bad habit, progress may come in tiny steps that feel insignificant in the grand scheme of things. However, these small wins are worth acknowledging because they are proof that you are on the right path. Whether it's choosing a healthier meal, resisting the urge to procrastinate, or practicing patience in a stressful situation, these moments matter. They are signs that you are changing, and they deserve recognition. Taking the time to celebrate your successes, even if they seem small, reinforces the positive behavior and encourages you to keep going. Another important aspect of self-compassion is learning how to manage your emotions throughout the process. Breaking bad habits is an emotional journey. There will be times when you feel frustrated, overwhelmed, or discouraged. During these moments, it's easy to give in to negative emotions and revert to the comfort of old habits. Instead of beating yourself up for feeling this way, acknowledge your emotions without judgment. Understand that emotions are a natural part of the process, and it's okay to feel them. What matters is how you respond. Self-compassion involves treating yourself with the same kindness and understanding that you would offer a close friend going through a difficult time. Rather than suppressing your emotions or feeling guilty for having them, allow yourself to feel them fully and then refocus on your goals. This mindset shift makes it easier to navigate the emotional ups and downs of breaking a bad habit without feeling defeated. It's also important to recognize that breaking bad habits doesn't mean you're not worthy of love or success. Often people hold on to their bad habits because they feel undeserving of better things. They may tell themselves that they don't deserve happiness or health, or that they're incapable of making lasting changes. This mindset can keep you stuck in a cycle of self-sabotage. The truth is, every person deserves the opportunity to grow and change. Self-compassion is about acknowledging that you are worthy of success and happiness, regardless of your past behaviors. By accepting that you are deserving of improvement and growth, you give yourself permission to pursue the changes you want in your life without guilt or shame. Being kind to yourself also means being realistic in your expectations. Change is a gradual process, and expecting instant results can set you up for disappointment. It's easy to become discouraged if you don't see immediate progress, or if the road to breaking a bad habit feels longer than you anticipated. Self-compassion involves understanding that change doesn't happen overnight, and that there will be bumps along the way. Instead of focusing on the end result, focus on the journey. Acknowledge the small steps you're taking each day and give yourself credit for those efforts. By setting realistic expectations, you allow yourself the space to grow at your own pace without unnecessary pressure. Finally, self-compassion encourages you to be patient with yourself. Breaking bad habits can be challenging, and there will be times when you feel like giving up. It's in these moments that patience with yourself becomes crucial. Recognize that personal growth takes time, and just because you haven't reached your goal yet doesn't mean you won't. Trust the process, and understand that setbacks don't define your progress. They are just a temporary part of the path toward transformation. With time, your new habits will become second nature, but this will only happen if you're patient and kind to yourself along the way. The journey of breaking bad habits is long and often difficult, but by practicing self-compassion you can make the process easier and more manageable. Rather than letting setbacks define your journey, use them as stepping stones toward your goal. Celebrate your progress, embrace your emotions, and remind yourself that you are worthy of change. The kindness and patience you show yourself will be the foundation for lasting transformation. Celebrating your victories, no matter how small they seem, is an essential part of breaking bad habits and building new, positive ones. It is easy to overlook the progress you've made because it feels insignificant compared to the larger goal. However, recognizing and celebrating these small milestones is not just important, it is a vital tool for sustaining motivation and reinforcing the changes you're trying to make. Every time you celebrate a victory, no matter how small, you create a positive feedback loop that encourages continued growth and progress. When you're trying to break a bad habit, the road can often feel long and discouraging. The larger goal of completely transforming your behavior might seem distant or out of reach. In these moments, the temptation to give up can be overwhelming. However, celebrating small victories along the way helps you stay focused on the progress you've made, rather than the distance between where you are and where you want to be. For example, if you've been working on overcoming procrastination and you manage to complete a task ahead of schedule, that's a victory worth celebrating. It may feel like a small win, but it represents a shift in your habits and mindset. It's easy to dismiss these small moments, but they are proof that you are capable of change. Celebrating your victories also helps to shift your focus from the challenges to the positive outcome. Often we get so caught up in the obstacles and difficulties of changing our habits that we forget to acknowledge the progress we've made. The process of breaking bad habits is not linear, and there will be times when it feels like you're taking 2 steps forward and 1 step back. It's important to recognize that setbacks are a normal part of the process, and don't diminish the progress you've made. Instead of fixating on the mistakes or the times you've slipped up, celebrate the moments when you succeeded. This positive reinforcement keeps